Welcome investors to Joe's Investment Express. Let's talk some more about supply and demand, analyzing charts using supply and demand. Specifically in this video, let's talk about how to determine how much potential supply might come to market when you are trying to buy, considering whether to buy a breakout from a handle coming out of a base. That sounds really complicated when I just explain it, but guess what? It's really easy and it's easy and simple, and you'll get that as soon as I show you the technique. Now keep in mind, this does not apply to pullback buys. Pullback buys, you're always going to have some significant supply overhead, so you need to be more cognizant of the company's fundamentals, the market direction, etc. Let's save that strategy for another day. And before we get started, if you could consider liking the video, it'll help get the video out to more people. And remember, if you want to know when when one of my videos comes out, you can hit the notification bell. So here's Devon Energy, DVN, the market darling of 2021. This stock was the best performing stock in 2021. And guess what? It's doing fantastic again here in 2022. It's an energy stock, and it has a habit, what can I say? Wonderful habit of setting up in nice flat bases for us. So what we do, we get our trend line. I'm using stockcharts.com, and I have a link to that in the description below as well. So here's a little flat base, all right? And here we see a breakout. So we could draw a line. What you do, you always draw your line from right to left. Actually, let's go down deeper in the weeds. Here is a little tiny, you could call that a really low cheat. Now, obviously this worked, but there's no way I would buy that because there's way too much supply above that low cheat. So our next handle we see is right here. Now this is much better, isn't it? Because, if we drew this line across here, there's not a lot of supply. So when it breaks out from this handle, most of the supply is cleared, and there's a much better chance of that handle, of this chart breakout succeeding. So then we have another handle that formed right here, and you draw it right across there. And obviously there's nothing to the left. There's just a little bit right here, but then the breakout clears everything. Now, Mark Minervini is really suspicious of breakout gaps. He says that a lot of times they end up consolidating for a long time, and so he usually doesn't buy them. And I'm beginning to think the same thing, and this is a classic example. You see this really strong breakout on big volume, but then look, it consolidates for 1, 2, 3, essentially 4 months. You don't really want to have dead money for 4 months, do you? So even though we've cleared all the supply, we probably want to wait for a better setup. Mark Minervini, by the way, is, in my opinion, the greatest technical analysis trader on the planet. So here we have this nice flat base. Now let's identify a little handle over here on the right side. I'm gonna call it right here. So if we draw our line from right to left, we see there's quite a bit of supply there. So we probably don't want to buy when it comes off of this handle. But once it breaks out and gives us another little cheat, now most of the supply has been cleared, right? So now we wait for it to break above this little cheat, and as you can see, it pulled back to the 50-day exponential and broke out. This is a perfect buy point. There's no gap. The candle closes near the high of the day. Volume is a little bit above average. It's perfect. That is a screaming buy right there. There's one more little base on this chart, and it's essentially a double bottom. You've got one part of the W, the other part of the W, and the second part undercuts the first. Now we have to get a little creative here. But as you can see, it bounced strongly off the lows, and then it gave us this little pause. We can use that as our pivot. We can draw a line from right to left here, and we see there's a little bit of supply, right? But when it breaks out strongly and closes at the high of the day, it's cleared all that supply. So we could buy near the end of the day or even at market open the next day, feeling pretty good about that trade. And sure enough, it paused for just a few days, and then it continued ascending to the upside. What I don't like about this breakout is that the volume was lackluster, but there's always something to complain about, right? But I suppose the fact that there's low volume indicates that it's more likely it's going to pause and not just shoot out of the gate like right here. Let's mark up one more chart. Okay, here we have Arch Coal. This is a coal mining company, and as you know, the energy stocks are doing well this year. Let's just identify some bases and look at handles and try to determine which handles we should buy off of depending on potential supply. And as we talked about, you draw from right to left. So here is a base. It's not the most beautiful cup and handle. You got some strange action going on over here, but certainly it pulls back and then it makes a pretty good handle here. And then you have kind of a Hardaway crossover here. So let's draw our line from right to left. Now, would this be a good base to buy out of? Now, we have to ignore, we have to pretend that we can't see all of this price action to the right. We got to look at this in real time. And the answer would be no, because look at all this supply that still can come to market. However, when it breaks out and then pauses for a day, now, what's wrong with my thing here? Now we've cleared most of that supply. Now this is a doji, an indecision doji. That's called a spinning top. You don't want to buy off of that. But when it breaks out above that, then that's where you could be comfortable buying. Now I don't like the candle wicks. You want to see a stock finish strongly, not leave a wick at the top. So if you want to be really precise, and I try to be as precise as possible, I probably wouldn't buy off of these. I would wait until you see a candle that closes near the top of its range. So I would have probably bought right here. This is called a cap or a high handle. So could you add on that one? Well, let's see. You got a nice cap forming here. There's virtually no supply. This is just 3 days of supply, and there's not much over there. So when it breaks out of this cap, I would jump all over this and buy that one for sure. Then it sets up in another base, but we might have gotten shaken out here. We'd have to measure that. Let's just see. If we had, okay, so if we bought here and we had, yep, look at that. We would have gotten shaken out, doggone it. But that's just how it goes sometimes, and then we can always buy it back. So then it makes another base, and sometimes you got to get really creative. Here's a one-day pivot. So when we see this, we could think, all right, a handle starting to form. Can I buy off of that handle? And the answer would unequivocally be yes, right? There's no supply over here. So you buy off of that candle. It pulls back this time, but this time you're not going to get shaken out. That's just a few percent. Our next opportunity comes in the fall of 2021. You've got a base forming here. You've got a little handle here. So let's just measure it out. We draw from right to left. Let's say we're right here. You draw from right to left, and that's a pretty good handle there. There's not much supply that could sabotage us, right? So we want to buy a strong breakout. However, this is during a hard penny environment, and in a hard penny environment, you don't buy the initial breakouts. You wait to see if it holds up throughout the day and builds momentum. And this breakout reversed intraday. This is called squatting, and you don't want to buy a squat breakout, especially in a hard penny environment. So then we wait, bounces off the 50-day moving average. That's where a lot of the funds like to buy. And then it comes back through this handle. And this time it closes at the top of its range. It shows real strength. It's got big volume. There's our buy point, and away it goes. And guess what? It's making another base here. So let's just wait and be patient, and we can do the same darn thing when it breaks out of this base. Well, that's a little tutorial on how I identify potential supply and when to buy stocks out of handle breakouts. Gosh, that is hard to explain or hard to say. I hope that was helpful for you. Like I've been saying, look at stocks in terms of supply and demand, and your performance in technical analysis will really increase. Let me know what you think of these concepts, this concept, in the comments down below, and I will talk to you guys later.